You can eat clean, walk every day, and still train your body to protect belly fat. That sounds unfair, almost like your metabolism is playing a trick on you. But your body isn't trying to embarrass you in the mirror. It may be obeying a hidden stress signal you never knew you were sending. This is why fat loss can feel so personal. You cut portions, skip snacks, push through workouts, and tell yourself to be more disciplined. Then the scale barely moves, your waist feels stubborn, and your cravings show up like they've got a spare key. After a while, you don't just feel stuck. You start wondering if something is wrong with you. But here's the counterintuitive part. Trying harder can sometimes make the body feel less safe. And when the body feels less safe, it doesn't always release stored energy calmly. It may tighten its grip, especially around the midsection, because biology cares more about survival than your deadline. The hidden player is cortisol, your main stress hormone. Cortisol is not bad. You need it to wake up, focus, move, and respond to real challenges. But when it stays too active, it can tell the liver to send glucose into the blood. That glucose can call insulin back into the picture, and insulin can keep fat cells from opening easily. So the real story is not just eat less and move more. It's stress, cortisol, liver glucose, insulin, and fat cells receiving a message to stay guarded. That chain can make a tired person feel hungry, wired, puffy, and confused even while doing the right things. It's like pressing the gas pedal and the brake at the same time, then blaming the car for not moving. Once cortisol stops blocking the signal, the body can start reading the situation differently. Blood sugar becomes steadier, insulin can calm down, sleep can improve, and cravings may lose some of their grip. Fat burning becomes less like forcing a locked door, and more like giving the body permission to use stored fuel, not through punishment, but through rhythm. And that's what you're about to understand. You'll see why stubborn fat can stay put when effort is high, why cortisol can raise blood sugar even when you haven't eaten, and why insulin may keep guarding the fat cell door. You'll also see how a calmer nervous system changes the whole fuel equation. And by the end, the solution will feel less mysterious and much more practical. Because your body may not need another extreme plan. It may need a different message, repeated long enough for biology to believe it. The first piece of that message starts with one frustrating question almost everyone has asked. Why can your body hold fat even when you're eating less and trying harder? You can eat less, push harder, skip meals, walk more, and still feel like your body is holding on for dear life. That's the part that makes people feel crazy, because from the outside, it looks like effort should automatically turn into fat loss. But inside the body, effort and safety are not always the same signal. Most people think stubborn fat means they need more discipline. So they cut another snack, add another workout, stretch the fast longer, or drink more coffee to get through the day. And for a while, it feels heroic, like they're finally getting serious. But the body may hear that whole plan as pressure, not progress. When your system senses pressure, cortisol steps in like an emergency messenger. Cortisol tells the liver to release glucose, because glucose is fast fuel for action. That's useful if you need to run, lift, react, or survive something real. But if the alarm stays on all day, your body keeps preparing for danger that never arrives. Think of your liver like a chemical factory with an emergency generator in the back room. When cortisol pulls the lever, that generator starts pumping quick-burning sugar into the bloodstream. The problem is, you might be sitting in traffic, answering emails, or lying awake at 2 a.m. There's no tiger, no sprint, no battlefield, just biology, taking the signal seriously. This is why someone can eat clean and still feel stuck around the waist. Maybe you wake up tired, drink strong coffee, rush through the morning, fast until noon, then force a hard workout. On paper, that looks like fat loss discipline. Inside the body, it may look more like a long emergency with no food coming in. The first shift is not to give up on calories, movement, or fasting. It's to stop treating fat loss like a punishment contest. Start asking whether your daily rhythm tells your body, we're safe enough to burn stored fuel. Sleep, calmer mornings, steady meals, walking, and recovery are not soft habits. They're metabolic messages. Here's the deeper insight most people never hear clearly. Fat burning is not only a math problem, it's also a trust problem. Your body releases stored energy more easily when it doesn't think those reserves are needed for survival. Belly fat can behave like an emergency fuel tank, and stress keeps whispering, don't drain it yet. So when cortisol is high, the body may not be ignoring your effort. It may be obeying a stronger signal underneath the effort. And to understand why that signal can block progress so powerfully, we have to follow what cortisol does next. Because even when you're not eating, cortisol can still push sugar into your bloodstream. Here's where the whole fat loss story gets stranger. You can be hours into a fast, with no bread, no rice, no dessert, and no snack in sight. But your bloodstream may still be getting a fresh delivery of sugar. Not from your plate, from your own liver. Most people assume blood sugar only rises when they eat carbohydrates. So when they cut carbs or skip breakfast, they expect insulin to drop in fat, burning to open right away. But then they feel wired, shaky, irritable, or suddenly desperate for something sweet. And they wonder why fasting feels like a battle instead of a clean energy switch. Cortisol explains a big part of that mystery. When cortisol rises, it signals the liver to release stored glucose or create new glucose from other materials. The body does this because glucose is quick fuel, the kind you'd want in a real emergency. But when the emergency is just poor sleep, emotional stress, overtraining, too much caffeine, or aggressive fasting, the fuel has nowhere useful to go. Picture the liver as a night shift kitchen inside a hotel. Cortisol calls downstairs and says, "Send up sugar. We may need to run." The kitchen doesn't ask whether there's an actual fire in the building. It just starts preparing fuel because the alarm sounded convincing enough. You might see this in a very ordinary morning. You slept 5 hours, woke up tense, drank black coffee, skipped breakfast, and tried to power through emails. By 10:30, your stomach is empty, but your brain feels loud. That craving is not always weakness. Sometimes it's chemistry trying to calm a stress signal. The goal is not to crush cortisol, because you need cortisol to wake up, focus, move, and respond to life. The goal is to stop sending unnecessary spikes when there's no real danger. Try protecting the first hour of the morning with light, water, a short walk, and no caffeine overload on an empty, stressed system. And if fasting makes you feel panicked, instead of steady, shorten the fast and build from a calmer baseline. This is the rare piece most people miss. Fasting is not automatically low stress just because it lowers food intake. For a rested, well-fed, healthy adult, fasting may help insulin drop and make stored fuel easier to access. But for someone exhausted, underfed, overtrained, or living on caffeine, the same fast can become a stress amplifier. The habit didn't fail. The context changed the hormonal message. Once cortisol stops pushing emergency sugar into the blood all day, the next domino can finally fall. Blood sugar becomes less reactive. The pancreas doesn't have to respond so often, and insulin gets a chance to quiet down. And that matters because insulin is the hormone standing at the door of the fat cell. When it finally lowers, the locked fuel begins to look a lot less locked. If you feel like your body is constantly stuck in alert mode, with poor sleep, fatigue, untimely hunger, and stubborn abdominal fat, I've prepared the complete cortisol reset bundle. Inside, you'll receive the main guide, the cortisol reset, plus 2 bonuses, low nighttime cortisol protocol and cortisol, insulin, and abdominal fat. The link is in the description. This is the part where stubborn fat starts to make a lot more sense. Because your fat cells are not just sitting there, waiting for willpower to arrive. They are listening to hormonal instructions every minute of the day. And one of the loudest instructions comes from insulin. Most people think insulin only matters after a big bowl of pasta or a sugary dessert. So they assume that if they fast, eat fewer meals, or cut carbs, insulin must automatically stay low. But if cortisol keeps pushing glucose into the bloodstream, insulin still has a job to do. It has to show up, even when the sugar didn't come from food. Here's the chain that changes the whole picture. Stress raises cortisol. Cortisol tells the liver to release glucose. Glucose rises in the blood, and insulin steps in to move it. When insulin is active too often, fat cells become less likely to release stored energy. Not because your body hates you, but because insulin's job is to manage fuel, not drain the backup tank. Think of insulin like a security guard standing at the fat cell door. When blood sugar is high or unstable, that guard gets strict. It tells stored fat, "Stay inside. We're dealing with fuel in the bloodstream right now." So even if you're eating less, the door can still feel locked from the inside. You might notice this when you try to fast, walk, or eat smaller meals, but your belly still feels stuck. You're doing the behavior that should help, but your stress rhythm keeps changing the fuel signal. Maybe you're sleeping poorly, scrolling late, drinking coffee all day, and pushing hard workouts while under-recovered. Your body keeps getting the message that energy needs to be protected, not freely released. A better strategy is to make insulin's job easier by calming the signal before it becomes blood sugar chaos. Start your morning with sunlight, water, and 10 minutes of easy movement before flooding the system with caffeine. Build meals around protein like eggs, chicken, salmon, Greek yogurt, lean beef, tofu, or legumes to steady appetite and glucose. Then use a calm walk after meals, even 10 to 15 minutes, to help muscles pull glucose from the blood with less pressure on insulin. The deeper insight is that insulin control is not only about removing sugar from the plate. It's also about removing unnecessary emergency signals from the nervous system. When cortisol becomes more rhythmic, glucose becomes steadier, insulin can return lower, and fat cells become easier to access. That's when stored fat stops feeling like a sealed vault and starts behaving more like usable fuel. But hormones are only one layer of the mystery. When cortisol quiets down, the body doesn't just change its blood sugar pattern. The entire nervous system begins to shift how it spends, saves, and searches for energy. And that's where fat burning stops, feeling like a fight, and starts becoming a normal fuel choice. When cortisol stops shouting over everything, your body starts acting like a different machine. The same walk feels easier, the same meal lasts longer, and the same fast doesn't feel like a personal attack. That's because fat burning isn't only controlled by calories or hormones floating in isolation. It's also controlled by the state of the nervous system running the whole show. Most people try to lose fat from a tense body. They clench through cravings, rush through meals, sleep with one eye open, and treat every workout like a debt payment. Then they wonder why fat loss feels exhausting, fragile, and weirdly emotional. The mistake is assuming the body burns best when it's being pushed hardest. Chronic stress keeps the nervous system tilted toward quick fuel. Cortisol rises, glucose becomes more available, appetite gets louder, sleep gets lighter, and muscle tension stays higher. The body becomes biased toward fast energy because fast energy is useful in danger. But when that danger signal becomes your daily background music, stored fat remains protected instead of used. Imagine your nervous system as a control panel with two big settings. One says emergency mode, where every light is blinking, every worker is rushing, and every fuel tank is guarded. The other says steady mode, where digestion runs, sleep deepens, muscles recover, and energy flows more smoothly. Fat burning becomes much easier when the control panel stops flashing red. You've probably felt this difference without knowing the biology behind it. After a terrible night of sleep, even a normal breakfast may not feel satisfying, and cravings can stalk you by afternoon. But after a calm evening, solid sleep, and a simple morning walk, hunger often feels less frantic. That's not magic. That's cortisol rhythm, changing how the body asks for fuel. The practical move is to send low-stress, fat-burning signals all day, not just one heroic signal once in a while. Get morning light on your face, walk gently for 10 to 20 minutes, and breathe slowly before your first meal. Drink water, keep meals steady, and avoid turning every workout into a punishment session. At night, lower the lights, reduce screens, and give your nervous system a clear message that the repair shift can begin. Here's the high-value insight. A calmer body doesn't burn less because it's relaxed. For many people, it burns better because it stops wasting energy on false alarms. Digestion improves, appetite signals sharpen, sleep hormones line up, and muscles become more willing to use fuel efficiently. Fat burning stops being a forced jailbreak and becomes a normal decision inside a well-regulated system. But there's one hidden trap most people never see coming. Right when their body begins to feel safer, they get impatient and decide to speed things up. They cut harder, train harder, fast harder, and pour caffeine on top like gasoline on a campfire. And that can bring cortisol roaring back just when fat burning was finally starting to open. This is where many people accidentally rebuild the same problem they're trying to escape. They finally understand that stress can block fat burning, so they decide to become gentler. But then a fear creeps in. If I stop pushing so hard, won't my metabolism slow down? That fear keeps them trapped between exhaustion and impatience. The common mistake is thinking there are only two choices. Either you go extreme with long fasts, tiny meals, brutal workouts, and endless caffeine, or you relax completely, lose structure, and hope your body figures it out. But the body doesn't need punishment or passivity. It needs a rhythm it can trust. When you cut calories too low, train intensely every day, sleep less, and lean on coffee to survive, the body may read the whole plan as danger. Cortisol rises to keep energy available. The liver releases glucose, insulin steps in, and fat cells become harder to access. At the same time, poor recovery can make hunger louder and movement feel heavier. So the very plan designed to burn fat can start teaching the body to defend itself. Think of metabolism like a campfire. If you smother it with too little fuel, it struggles. If you blast it with stress, wind, and chaos, it burns messy and unstable. But when you feed it steadily and protect it from the storm, it gives off clean, reliable heat. Imagine someone trying to lose belly fat by fasting until 2 p.m., doing high-intensity workouts 6 days a week, sleeping 5 hours, and drinking coffee like it's a personality trait. For a few days, they may feel in control. Then cravings hit harder, workouts feel flat, sleep gets worse, and the belly still feels stubborn. That's not a character flaw. That's a stressed system asking for a different signal. A cortisol-friendly fat-burning rhythm is simple, but not lazy. Sleep first, because deep sleep helps cortisol fall at night and supports hunger hormones the next day. Walk daily at an easy pace, especially after meals, and strength train 2 to 4 times per week without turning every session into a survival event. Eat enough protein from eggs, salmon, chicken, Greek yogurt, lean beef, tofu, or legumes so the body has building material while fat loss happens. The deeper insight is that metabolism is not supported by doing the most. It's supported by creating a small, consistent gap between energy coming in and energy going out while keeping the body supplied and safe. For healthy adults, a moderate calorie deficit works better when it's paired with protein, resistance training, sleep, hydration, and recovery. And if someone has diabetes, takes medication, is pregnant, nursing, or has a history of eating disorders, major fasting or diet changes should be guided by a qualified professional. Once cortisol stops blocking the signal, fat burning stops, depending on punishment, and starts depending on rhythm. The body can lower emergency sugar, insulin can quiet down, and stored fuel becomes easier to reach. But the real transformation is bigger than a flatter waist or a better number on the scale. It's realizing your body was never broken. It was responding to the message it kept receiving. If there's one idea to carry with you, it's this. Your body is not fighting you for no reason. It is listening, adapting, protecting, and responding to the signals it receives every day. When those signals say pressure, danger, exhaustion, and emergency, the body can hold tighter to stored fuel. But when those signals begin to say rhythm, safety, recovery, and strength, the whole system can change. Cortisol was never the villain. It was the alarm bell doing what alarm bells are designed to do. The problem starts when the alarm never gets turned off, and the liver keeps sending emergency sugar into the bloodstream. Then insulin has to step in again, and fat cells become harder to access. That is why stubborn fat can feel so confusing. You may be eating less, walking more, fasting longer, and still sending your body a message that sounds like stress. And when the body hears stress, it does not calmly say, "Great, let's burn the backup battery." It often says, "Hold on, protect the reserves, something must be wrong." So the solution is not to become lazy, careless, or afraid of effort. The solution is to make your effort smarter. Sleep before you demand more from your metabolism, walk in a way that steadies glucose, eat enough protein to protect muscle, and train hard enough to build, not so hard that you break. That is how fat burning becomes a rhythm instead of a punishment. Start with one signal you can change this week. Maybe it's a calmer morning before caffeine, a 10-minute walk after meals, a protein-centered breakfast, or a real bedtime routine that tells your nervous system the day is over. These small signals may not look dramatic from the outside, but inside the body, they can change the conversation between cortisol, glucose, insulin, and stored fat. So, here's the question. Which signal do you think your body has been receiving most often? Has it been hearing safety, recovery, nourishment, and consistency? Or has it been hearing rush, pressure, restriction, and one more thing to survive? Have you been fighting your body when what it really needed was a different message? Share your answer in the comments, because the pattern you notice may be the pattern that changes everything. Which habit are you going to test first? The walk, the meal timing, the sleep reset, or the stress signal? And if this helped you understand your body in a way that finally makes sense, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications too, because the next lessons will keep connecting these hidden biological patterns. Your body is not broken. It is not lazy, stubborn, or out to punish you. It is a survival system waiting for clearer instruction. Change the signal, and you change the response.